Elevate yourself. Empower others. Welcome to Coach Approach Podcast. JM, genuinely grateful to have you here.
Thank you, Marco. I appreciate you, brother, and good to see you again. And really humbled to be on the coach approach, so I appreciate it.
Before we go tactical, I want to start here. You worked with a lot of successful people, founders, executives, high performers. From your perspective, what do most of them get wrong about what it means to win?
Mm. I think what any of us high performers get wrong is we sacrifice things along the road that maybe in the moment you don't think it's important, but long term you absolutely look back and you're like, gosh, I lost a marriage, or I don't have a good relationship with my kids, or my health is failing because so often we, again, those high performers, and when we get so focused on winning, we will almost win at any cost. Well, if you think about it and you get really clear, why did you want to do this to begin with? Right? Like, and I'll give you a good example, Marco. I was the exact same guy. I wanted to win so bad for my family. I would do anything to make sure that I created a life that they had everything they could ever dream of. Well, that nearly cost me my marriage. It didn't, thankfully. I was almost 300 pounds at the time, so
Mm.
like 70 pounds heavier than I am now. And I guess the point is, like, yes, I was winning, quote unquote, but what was I winning at? I was winning financially. Okay. My business, people thought that's growing. Okay. But again, the reason I started it was because of my family. So try not to lose, track and focus of what really matters. I think so many high performers that I work with, that's the challenge, is making sure that you don't lose sight of why you're doing it to begin with.
This phrase, win from within, sounds so simple, but it's actually confronting. In your experience, what does winning from within look like in the day-to-day life of a leader? But not on stage, not on social media, behind closed doors.
Yeah, and the question I ask every single one of my clients is, what did you do for you today? Right?
Mm.
Because if you don't take care of you first, how can you show up and be the best father, husband, leader, employer, whatever title or hat or whatever you're doing in the moment? But if you don't fill into your cup first, how can you possibly fill anybody else's cup? And so one of the most important things, and I do it every single day, is what am I doing for myself from a mind, body, and soul perspective. So my morning routine, which people probably have heard lots of morning routines, but the idea is very simple. Make sure that you're pouring into you. Mine's very basic, the four non-negotiables. I do my breath work, meditation, yoga, and qigong. And those four things I don't miss on. The reason I don't miss on it is not because I want to show up as the best version of myself for everyone else. If I don't do that, I'm not truly winning. And that's where it comes from, winning from within. Are you filling your bucket first
Mm.
before you try to fill anyone else's?
Because only if you have something you can give anything. Yeah, on the ladder of values, you say we always need to be first, and we always need to be first every day. Why every day?
Yeah, I mean, consistency, right? If you show up, let's say you go to the gym every that's your goal, is to go to the gym. Well, if you go to the gym one day a week and you just crush it, how much did you actually do for yourself? You got sore and you probably felt good that one day, but then if you don't do it the next 6 days of the week, you didn't actually get any real progress. And it's the same thing when it comes to winning from within. It's the same thing taking care of yourself. You can't just go all out for one day, right? I see people do this all the time. They'll go to, let's say, a Tony Robbins event, and they'll
Mhm.
be all fired up from this event. They're going to change the world. But if they don't actually go implement anything that they learned on a daily basis, it's all for naught. And so the consistency that you showing up every single day for yourself, now you're starting to create a habit. And sometimes habits get a negative connotation, but a habit is a really good thing if it's positive. And so you want to create it so much, that habit, that every single day you're showing up for you, you're pouring into yourself, and that allows you to show up as the best, again, leader that you can be, as the best, dad or mom or whatever thing that you are, by you showing up every single day. That consistency is how you are going to truly create something pretty awesome.
You said something that really stuck with me, that many leaders look successful on the outside, but feel misaligned internally. Where do you most often? Where do you see that internal ceiling show up? And what does it cause them over time?
Yeah, misalignment's it's a real challenge, and I see it in business partnerships all the time. And again, I'll just use myself as an example.
Yeah.
During the same time that my wife and I, we were almost divorced. We literally were separated for a year. And if you go back in time, it was also at my second company when we were making a lot of money, but I wasn't truly aligned with my business partners. Like the values that I believe in that are so important to me, they didn't necessarily, they weren't the same values of my business partners. And so on a daily basis, we really were not aligned with one another when it comes to, creating, whether it's a legacy or, I had a bunch of partners, all they wanted to do is make as much money as possible, no matter what it took. And so that misalignment, what happens is now you're not happy typically on a daily basis. Now that starts to show up in my case, in my relationships with my wife, with my health. And so that alignment piece, when you truly find alignment and harmony, now everything gets really easy. Now you start to find, as you've heard of, the state of flow. When you know exactly, like, these are my values, this is what is truly in alignment with who I am, now everything gets really, really easy and simple. You get fed more energy by doing these things. But if you're not misaligned, it's a long way to go about it, and it's not a fun journey for anybody.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about the energy. If we have a right energy, I mean, that kind of energy you're talking about, from which comes from the value things, it's the highest level of energy. Do you agree on that?
Yeah, so because if you think about it, we're all energetic beings, right? Every human being on earth is made of energy. You cannot argue this. That's biology at play. And so when your energy is in alignment and is operating at that very, very high level of frequency, well, guess what? Now you start to attract more abundance, more health, all these things. But if you're in complete dissidence where your energy is not aligned, now you're going to start to create fractures and challenges. And it's really easy to happen. Again, you might succeed in one area of life, but if you're feeling that misalignment, I promise you, you'll start to see, relationships start to fail, or your health. Those are typically the two areas, or your money. It's in these big buckets where I'm not aligned, and now I'm starting to see the fallout take place.
I want to talk a little bit about culture and revenue. A lot of people talk about culture, but you directly tie it to revenue. From what you've seen, how does misalignment inside the leadership team quietly kill performance and growth, even when the strategy is solid?
Yeah, so short term, if you have really good products and really good strategy, you can win without culture. I've seen it. It's happening out there right now. I was just with a company literally yesterday, and their product is so good, they are winning right now. But the problem is culturally, they're not aligned. And so you're starting to see the fractures take place within the executive team. Now, what happens is eventually somebody's ego, something's going to break. And now, no matter how good the product, how good the strategy, somebody is going to literally, it gets taken away. And I've seen so many examples of this. And so what I advise these companies is, look, the first thing we want to get very, very clear on is, who are we as a company? If you have the product and you have the strategy, that's amazing. But if you don't have the culture dialed in, none of it's going to matter long term. So if you're looking for a short sprint, okay, yeah, maybe it's not that big a deal, but it's going to create more chaos and it's going to take a lot more effort if you don't have your culture dialed in. When you get your culture really dialed in and you have the strategy and product, those are the companies that are unstoppable. Those are the ones that you hear, making big, big waves, like, I don't know, Google or Apple, Tesla. These companies are so clear on who they are, and they have a good product, and they have a good strategy. It's like, who's going to stop them? But you've seen in the past, and Apple would be a good example. When Steve Jobs, years ago, when they removed him, what happened to Apple? Well, it started to go down. Starbucks, same thing. When the CEO, I'm failing on his name, Howard, doesn't matter. But anyway, when he was removed and the culture wasn't the same, the product started to go down. And so that's where I try to advise any executive teams. Make sure you get that culture so clear and everyone on your team knows it. Now you can really have like rapid growth.
And from also, I can see that from marketing perspective, if the company has a why, it's so easy to tell their story. It's so easy to unpack all the things, and it's so easy to present them. Uh, your ABC framework, align, believe, choose, is elegant but powerful. And if a founder listening is overwhelmed right now, making decisions under pressure, how would you advise them to apply ABC in real time, not as a concept, but as a tool?
Yeah, so the first thing is the alignment is on that culture piece. Any overwhelmed CEO or leader, I always tell them to slow down in order to speed up. Like, let's really stop for just a second and breathe, and let's just look at what's happening. Because when you're going and when you're in the moment, you don't see all the challenges going on. You feel them, but you don't actually get a chance to see them. When you step back for a second and you go, what's going on? And by the way, a lot of times you have to look in the mirror and say, what am I not doing well? And so the A part of it is really to say, okay, is this company that you built or that you're leading, is it truly in alignment with what you want? That sounds like such an easy question,
Mm.
but sometimes that answer is going to be, no, I built something that sounded amazing and we're making this money, but I'm miserable. I don't even want to be here because it's taking me away from my family, or I'm literally every single minute of every single day, I'm doing something. That's not why I started this business. And I can't tell you, Marco, how many times I've met with executives that they've said that exact same thing. Like, I built this for freedom. I built it for, to spend more time with my family. That's why I built it. And yet it's doing the opposite of that. And so that's just an alignment part that you need to get figured out. How do we get it more in alignment with your goals and why you started the company to begin with? So I guess the last thing I would say to that, anybody listening that's feeling that way, you're not alone. There's nothing wrong with you. It literally just, it's time to take a breath, pause, and look at what's really going on inside your organization so that you can create the culture, the alignment that you want, so you can get back to doing whatever the goals are that you're really that you're looking to do anyway, that you created the company for anyway.
And after that part, they need to believe. They need to believe in what?
So Henry Ford years ago said, whether you think you can or can't, you're right. So you see this all the time, right? The only person that can really stop you, in my opinion, is you. Now, beliefs, here's the challenge. We inherited self limiting beliefs from parents and friends. And I mean, this stuff, you got some of this stuff put into your subconscious before you even had your long term memory in place. So oftentimes, we'll self sabotage things because we don't believe that we're worthy of it. We don't believe that we are truly deserving of this. We don't believe that I'm capable of doing these things. And the only person that's really holding you back is you. Now, I won't say that everybody, and you know this, Marco, it's not like everybody around you's rooting for you and saying, hey, great idea. Like when you started your podcast, I'm sure people are like, um, who are you to start a podcast? I mean, there's always naysayers, right? But it all starts with your belief. If you truly believe that you should be successful, that you bring value to the world, then you're going to. But if you believe I'm not worthy, you believe that I'm an imposter, then that's exactly how you're going to show up. So every one of us has that feeling sometimes. And I just like to get in there and figure out, why do you believe that? And so there's three questions that I have people ask themselves. Why do I believe that? Is it true? And how is that showing up and serving in my life? And if you can answer those three questions honestly, now you can start to figure out, wait a minute, I believe that because my mom or dad told me I wasn't very good at public speaking. Is it true? No, it's not true. That's just what somebody said. And thirdly, it's showing up by me not being happy because I want to start a podcast or I want to write a book or whatever thing you want to do. So just remember, some of your beliefs you inherited, some are good, but not all of them.
Yeah, we need to go through that. Beside that, we can talk about emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence gets talked about a lot and often misunderstood. In your work, what does emotional intelligence actually look like when it's driving measurable results instead of just sounding good?
Yeah, it's having the ability again to step back and really observe, be self-aware. How are my actions? Are they creating positivity? Are they creating growth? Or am I actually creating chaos and challenges? And having that emotional awareness to be extremely observant and aware of how I'm showing up. It's not I'm not suggesting it's easy, and here's a trick that I will give any of your listeners. You may or may not know how you're showing up. So for instance, if I think I sound a certain way, but have you ever called and listened to your own voice on a voicemail or when you listen to the podcast? I promise you your voice sounds different than how you think it sounds. And that's a big part of how we show up in the world. We think we are showing up a certain way, but until we truly ask, we don't know. So, one of the tools that I provide to anybody, and this is free to anybody, is ask the people around you for feedback. So, you may think that you're showing up in a happy way, in a confident way, but if you ask the people that you're working with, hey, can you give me feedback on what I could be improving on? You might find out some incredibly insightful information. Or you might say, hey, I think I'm showing up confidently. Do you see it the same way? And they may say, not at all, actually. I see you question yourself all the time. And I'm not suggesting it's easy to hear the feedback, but it is pure gold if you're willing to
Mm.
listen to it. So, having that emotional intelligence to be aware and then to reach out to people and get true feedback on how am I really showing up in their eyes.
Yeah, that's also a big one. When I played soccer, after the game, you think, oh, I was good, I was good. And then you see a recording and see, oh my God, what is this? That's not so good. So you have to put in the work and be better next time. When we talk about leadership honesty in your coaching, what's one truth you often have to help leaders face? Something they already know deep down but avoid admitting to themselves.
You know, one of the biggest challenges I see leaders having is having crucial conversations. I notice that even really powerful leaders, there's typically conversations that if they just were willing to have them with their other executive, with their spouse or significant other, life becomes that much easier. But I've found because people want to be nice, they want to be liked. And so they just avoid the whole conversation altogether and they're just like, they'll just keep going along, building resentment or, they talk behind somebody's back. And so one of the biggest things that I always, when I dive in with executives, is what conversation do you know you need to have right now that if you did, it would feel like a freedom, right? And here's the crazy part. That conversation that you're avoiding so much that you really don't want to have it. Like you have that visceral reaction to, "Oh, it's going to go terrible." Well, A, you
Mm.
don't know that, and B, it's weighing you down on a daily basis. So I always it's one of the first things I ask. What's one of the conversations you need to have right now that you've been avoiding having? And it's incredible, Marco, when people take that step, how now again it gets them back in alignment because the truth is we don't want that feeling of anger or resentment. That's poison inside your body. So you may as well have a conversation and get it out on the table so now you can start to build from a more harmonious place. Yeah.
Uh, you talk about one thing, and I like that thing, seasons over balance. You spoken about moving away from the idea of balance and toward harmony. For leaders who feel guilty no matter where they put their attention, business, family, health, what mindset shift changes everything?
Yeah, you did your research. So, work life balance is what I used to talk about. And here is the problem: if you're trying to balance a scale, it has to be perfectly even, right? So, that means you have to be putting the exact amount on one side, and so the exact amount at work, and then the exact same amount at home. Well, that's not practical. That's not the way the world works. There are going to be seasons of life where you're going to have to put a lot more time into your work. Now, if you talk to your family ahead of time and say, hey, guys, just know I'm going to have to be putting in extra time at work. So that's going to take me away from us for the next, I don't know, 3 months. Now you've at least set the expectation to let them know I'm going to be busy at work. And conversely, let's say you just got done with that season where you put so much time into your work. Well, now you might need to go spend additional time with your family. So now you take time to take the family on a vacation. Well,
Mm.
that season of life or that season is I'm going to spend more time with my family and less at work. And that's the part of finding harmony. But I think the part that most people miss is just simply communicating. People can deal with almost anything that you have to say. They can't deal with the unknown. And so if you don't tell your spouse that, hey, I'm going to be grinding at work for, you know, 15 hours a day for the next 90 days, well, if you don't tell her that and you just start doing that, well, now she's going, why is he at work so much? Why is he avoiding us? And then you get mad because she doesn't understand. But the truth is, you were the one that didn't communicate to begin with. So just taking time to understand that, look, seasons change. I need to spend more time in certain areas in the season, and that's okay. That's true work life harmony.
JM, on a personal level, with everything you do, What's one non-negotiable practice that keeps you grounded and aligned as a leader beside the one you said, your morning routine? Do you have something else or how you prepare one of the seasons when it's coming? Are you having a seasons of work and seasons of health or how you do that?
Yeah, for me to stay grounded outside of the morning practice, there actually I'll give you two because one is literally go outside and just ground. It's
Mm.
amazing if you have a problem right now and you're like, I don't know the answer. You know the best thing to do? Go outside and take a walk. Go outside and sit by a tree. Go outside and just be. That grounding practice, literally the answers show up like that. It's incredible. And it's again, it's biology. We need sunshine and we need to actually just rest the brain because if you sit and you're trying to solve a problem, that's not usually how it works. But if you go on a walk or it happens all the time, you're in the shower and you're like, "Oh my god, I have the answer." Well, it's because you weren't thinking so hard about the problem. So that's one. The other one that goes hand in hand with this is just literally journaling, writing, and just getting the brain dump out, especially when you have challenges. It's just put it down, get it out of your head, and now you start to see more clarity. So if you're like, gosh, I have to spend more time at work, well, write about it. And now you'll have clarity on why do I have to spend more time at work? Oh, I need to have this conversation with my wife. Whatever the things are. So those are my two practices that I do, especially when I need answers as I go into different seasons, problems, anything going on. I'll go outside and I'll ground, and typically I'll be writing simultaneously.
JM, listening to you, one thing is very clear. You're not just teaching leadership, you're operating from it. And I know this is a podcast about insight, not logistics, but I'm genuinely curious. You build Let's Go Win into a respected platform, the podcast, the books, the coaching ecosystem. What's something you learned about distributing a meaningful message that most people overlook?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I think so often, at least in my experience, I've created things just trying to create money, right? Like I'll create a business and that's fine, but I've noticed that I quickly fall out of excitement of doing it. And so Let's Go Win, what's been unique about this company is everything I've done is because it's come out of absolute passion. I want to help, create a better world. I want to help my kids be better. That's how I wrote the first book. So I think oftentimes what's overlooked is what are you really, really passionate and care about? And there's two schools of thoughts on this. Some people are like, it doesn't matter, go do something that you make a lot of money, then you can find your passion. And that's one way to go about it. Or why don't you find something you're passionate about and really, really give that out into the world? And here's what I think the difference is of the two. When you do something that you love, it doesn't drain your energy. It actually gives you more energy, regardless of how many hours that you're doing it. When I'm podcasting, just like we're doing right now, my energy is from the start of this show to now, it has continued to rise because I love doing this. I absolutely love sharing with amazing people like yourself. And so that's one of the things that I think often is overlooked, that people make decisions to just create money. And that's fine. There's no judgment on it. But again, what is the fallout of that if you don't truly love doing what you're doing? And if you're going to choose that path, that's fine. Do you have something that fills your bucket? Whether that's a hobby, whatever. Make sure that you're doing something that's feeding you energy, because that's the one thing I see continuously is somebody spent so much time and energy and they created something awesome, but they didn't give themselves anything in return, and they don't get to enjoy the fruits of their labor.
For someone listening who feels driven, capable, but slightly misaligned right now, What's one small choice they can make this week that moves them closer to winning from within?
Yeah, again, I'd say just slow down. I want you to stop and just say, what is not working right now?
Mhm.
Why don't I feel extremely excited and energized? And by the way, this is for everybody. This isn't just for the people feeling that way. We should do this on a continuous basis, monthly at a minimum, because I promise you, it's kind of like playing sports. You mentioned soccer, right? We have these slumps and we have these really good, and it goes like that. So you want to always be checking in, like, how am I doing? Does what I'm doing make sense? Is it actually giving me more energy or less energy? So everybody listening, I just want you to stop for a second and just ask yourself, do I love what I'm doing right now? Is it giving me energy? Is it bringing me the life that I wanted to create? And if the answers are yes, yes, and yes, awesome. Keep doing it. That's great. But if the answers are, no, then let's take a look and see what we need to adjust. So just being willing to look in the mirror and being willing to say, this is good, but it's not great. How can I make it great? We only have one life to live, so we may as well make it a great one while we're doing it.
For everyone who wants to go deeper, where they can find your work, your books, and the Let's Go Win podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Marco. I appreciate it. So letsgowin.com. If you look up Let's Go Win, there I'll be. But yeah, the books are available on Amazon, and the Let's Go Win podcast is on any of the streaming platforms. So thank you, brother. You run a great show, man. I really appreciate the way you show up, and I really appreciate you having me on.
We'll put everything in the show notes. JM, thank you for the work you're doing and for the example you set. I appreciate you. Elevate yourself, empower others. Welcome to Coach Approach Podcast.